Greetings, Victoria Marks. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. This is such a lovely thing to invite you to come and speak about your process in the making of this film and this stage piece, clearly, at one point. Yes. So would you mind sharing with us your process in the making of this work?
Sure. We're talking about the duet Not About Iraq, which actually was a part of a larger evening length work eventually. And the film that you have was actually just an adaptation of the stage piece. It never was a project for film. I made it, or I started making it, well, somehow it was a response to 2003 and our invasion of Iraq, and the instructions at the time from our president at the time, which was, go shopping, basically build the economy, everything's going to be okay. And the sense that I had as a choreographer about sometimes how distant dance feels from the civic, political, global world that we're in, and just wanted to think about, could I make a dance that was a response to that moment?
It is very provocative, in particular, how you repeat phrases. Did you write the script, by the way?
Yes, I did.
So share with us what it was, the intent behind the repetition.
The repetition. I gotta think about the piece. This is beautiful. This is just that kind of repetition. Well, it's funny because, I haven't really looked at that dance in a little while, but the dance, as I recall, has 3 sections. The first section is Taisha dancing, and I'm commenting kind of like a critic, kind of, I guess in my mind was this sense that that dance isn't political, that, we're looking at some beautiful movement, and nothing more than that. I think soon after, I kind of come from the audience or come into the stage space, and then soon after that, I say everything is okay. And that was necessary to repeat because I think it's a very important statement, even right now with our current president, everything is okay. Everything's going to just, the virus is going to disappear. We're going to jump back. Everything is okay. And this idea that if you say things enough times, either we'll believe it, or if you say things enough times, we're going to be sure not to believe it.
Very interestingly, in that moment, as you are repeating this powerful phrase, catchphrase, if you will, the dancer collapses and you persist. And it's a very intriguing moment there that you create that tension. What was that you wanted to express?
Well, on the one hand, it's just choreography. It's like she does a leap and an extension, and then she, suspends herself above the floor, and then she drops. And so to me, it was this place where the words and the dance kind of intersected for a moment. And I could then, in a sense, also direct our attention to the choreography in a particular way. Like, I think I said something like, everything's okay, and then over to her, like, everything's okay. And then she gets up and I go, everything's okay. So that somehow also these choreographic appearances, the appearance of things and the sort of staging of action works to seduce us into believing that everything's okay.
Indeed. And everything is beautiful. This is beautiful. Yeah. So there are these powerful these power sentences, and they're actually, it's kind of like a dance of seduction, curiously enough, as I was observing it. You know, she's very alluring. She is deeply involved with her expression and what is happening inside her body. And that's so beautiful and provocative. And was that your intent?
Well, yes, I think there's a kind of violence that's deeply ingrained in that dance. I think when Taisha and I began to work together, I said I'd like to try to understand better. And this was, 2000, I don't remember, 7 or something, 5. I'd like to understand something about race and dance and my whiteness. And so, it was really clear to me from the beginning that I was, in a sense, committing the violence that I feel like is regularly committed, both towards women and also towards women of color, and that I could serve, particularly in this film adaptation, as a kind of talking head authority, like, you're going to believe me, and I'm going to objectify this other person. And I think after we did this for a while, I think my feeling was that it was too violent in a way. Like, it doesn't, I wondered, even though the piece switches the power center to Taisha, I'm still the choreographer and I'm still the script writer. So even when she says, this is not the end of this dance, she's still not really in charge of that. So like, the violence that I revealed to myself and that I hopefully revealed to others was so embedded in the piece that it was time to just make another piece.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's really lovely, really lovely. I wondered if you recently shared with me that you are working with the disabled. Could you share a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. I made a piece in if you can believe it, in 1992, I think it was, 1992, with Canduco Dance Company in the UK. And it was a dance film. It was actually made for film. It never existed on a stage. And in it, I became very, very interested in how dance is about the representation of bodies, like Not About Iraq. And could you, in 12 minutes, that was the length of that piece, actually work to try to change the way the spectator sees as a result of the dance? Now, I was in a really lucky position because it was being broadcast, the dance that I made. And I knew that in one broadcast in the UK, more people would see that dance than would ever see all of my live work. So it was like, wow, when you have 12 minutes of somebody's time, what are you going to do with it? I mean, really? So that was a real threshold moment for me in 1992, making that piece. It's still available to be seen. And I continued to stay interested in this larger question of, how do dances engage us in the way we understand one another and one another's different embodiments? And so I have continued to take an interest, make dances with and for dancers with disabilities. And most recently, I started the Dancing Disability Lab at UCLA because we have dance studios and we have a disability studies minor. So it was this great opportunity to put these things together. I really felt like, actually, again, positioning myself in Not About Iraq as this white person, author person, I really started to feel like, as a non-disabled person, or at least pretty much non-disabled person, I should not be making dances for dancers with disabilities. The dancers who should be making dances should be themselves disabled, because that point of view would be inscribed in the work they would make. So when I started the Dancing Disability Lab last year, my focus was on working with a group of artists who all identified as disabled to think about a disability aesthetic or disability aesthetics generally, because the dance field with the subgenre of disabled dancers, in my mind, had consistently referenced ability aesthetics, you know, including virtuosity, but other forms of virtuosity. And I think that was a really important time for that, for dancers with disabilities to have a public image, to be making work that would change the way we think about disability, but that we had just like now, like in the last couple of years, now it's time to challenge even the aesthetic that dance has prescribed itself to. So that's what that lab is. We're postponing it. We're not going to get together in person until 2021, of course, because of COVID-19. But we're going to do an online version from this June through to the next June, so we can begin the work in advance.
That's fantastic. How
Sorry, that
beautiful.
was a long answer.
No, that was fantastic. And what a wonderful thing you are doing. And we thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you so much, Victoria Marx, for your wonderful work, for your wonderful awareness, and for your contributions.
Oh, thank you, George. It's a pleasure to talk to you.